About 6 years ago, my life was filled with so much joy and eventful times. But it all changed to one day when I something would change my life for a whole different direction. It was a thanks to one thing: my parents. You may understand why I'm saying that though. My name is Adrian. I'm now 24 years old, and I was 18 years old in my final year of high school when this all happened. I will give you a brief backstory. I'm not from a wealthy family. I'm from more your typical working class family. My parents owns a restaurant in town, and it was just a nice place, and I was always there with my friends while growing up. And there were actually one point that I thought I will taking over the restaurant after my parents retired. But that is not happening anymore. You may understand why. And now this like a story is set. You will understand now why all this happened though. During my final year of high school, I was really excited about potentially going to college or something. But I wasn't really sure exactly which college to go. I mean, there were different places I wanted to go. And in order to take over my family's restaurant at one point, I thought maybe doing college where I can take business courses in order to get understanding how to run a business, to maybe one day to expand it to a second location or something. But it was one thing I didn't wasn't even aware of at least the time. But eventually I would. Even at the times when I had a bad time or a bad day, there was only one person that would cheer me up all the time, and that would be my fiance Harper. Yes, I had a fiance even in college, in high school. We actually got engaged when we were just 17 years old. She is around the same age as me, and now she is my wife. And, well, she was the most amazing person that would always cheer me up. And my parents actually have met her multiple times when I took her home. We were just either hanging out and watching movies or doing homework together. They liked her. And even though I never actually thought or mentioned that to my parents that they first believed, I think they only believed that she was just a friend of mine. Because I never brought up the topic of me dating or being engaged. If I had, well, things might have much different point of view on the or outcome of this. But anyways, one day after the school, when I came home, I found my parents were actually home. There was it was very typical, unusual. Either my dad works late or my mom works late together at the restaurant. But today they had decided to close the restaurant earlier for the day. There were some things that they needed some repairs in the restaurant. So they were going to be closed for the weekend. But then during dinner, my parents told me there were some issues with the restaurant. I was like, "What do you mean that?" My dad told me that the restaurant wasn't going so well. In fact, they had less than fewer customers each day now. When we opened the restaurant years ago, even before I was born, they had always so many customers, and even during my middle school and even until high school, they still had plenty of customers and even more regular ones. But recently, it just simply dwindled down to just a handful of customers each per day. And my parents was getting a bit worried if they don't get much customers anymore, they may have to close down the restaurant. And that would crush my dream to taking over the business one day of myself, I told them. They knew that. But then my dad told me that he had approached a businessman, a local man, who owns a large restaurant chain not only in our town but in different cities around in the area. And he was willing to help my parents to have to save our restaurant, but only for one thing in return. And I asked, What kind? Well, my parents looked at each other and they first was silent. They told me, in order to have my parents' restaurant been saved, the return on the business is that I had to marry the man's daughter, Willow, who would also around the same age. My mom showed me a photo of Willow. I admit she was beautiful, but I was stunned. So they literally had to make me make a choice either to let the family business go under, or I had to marry someone I was not even, didn't even know, a complete stranger to me. But I already had one thing to tell them. I told them I don't know if I can actually meet or even marry her at all. But my dad told me firmly, you have to do it for our family business. You want to run it yourself, don't you? I told him I wanted to do, but why do I have to marry her? Wouldn't be other ways to save the restaurant? Maybe doing some campaigns or maybe doing some sort of events? My parents told me they had tried some other things already, but since they were on low budget already, they didn't want to risk any other things since most other things only somewhat are their own ideas. They brought some customers, and I was like, maybe I can help. Maybe if I can help some bring some of my friends to school, maybe to maybe make some ads for school to the teachers and other parents and all from the school students. My parents told me that would have been a good idea, but we don't even know if that one's gonna work on long run, a long term, or being just gonna be for short term. My dad had a point though. We would have known, and I admit to that. But then my dad once again told me I should have married the man's daughter. But I told him and my mom firmly that's not happening. They start to ask me why. My mom asked me if I didn't really thought that she was cute or beautiful. I said that she was beautiful, but I couldn't do it. They asked me for what reason. I was already engaged. They looked at each other and they're like, you engaged? To who? My dad asked firmly, almost angrily. I told them to my classmate Harper. They realized the girl that I had brought over from many times before had been in fact been my girlfriend. I told them that I had been dating her since the first year of high school and we got engaged only when we were 17, but we were waiting to get married when we were at least a bit older. But my dad told me to break up my engagement with Harper and marry Willow. And it was no other choice either that or he would kick me out of the house. I was, but my mom said more calmly, maybe you just should meet Willow just in case. I was about to say no, but knowing my dad would freak out like if I did say no, so I likely agreed to do it. But only agreed to meet her, but not agreed to like marry her. So the next day, which were a Saturday, Willow and her dad came over for dinner. And the dad believed that I was actually going to marry his daughter. But apparently my parents had given him the impression that I was going to if I saw her in person. But before they came over, my mom and dad told me firmly not to mention I'm not going to marry his daughter or that I in fact already had any fiance. And even if I wanted to, well, I was like, okay. But she seems to be a very nice girl though, Willow. She's a little bit shy, but I mean, even if it was just her and myself, I did ask her what her opinion about this getting married to a complete stranger, even though we were the same age. She was actually not even okay with this idea either. She didn't even want to do it. She wanted to live her own life. But apparently her dad has been bossing around her entire life, and I told her as soon as she leaves her house for going to college or something, or when she moves out, it would be her life to decide what she wants to do, not her parents. She agreed. So after they left that evening, my parents asked me again what I thought about her. I still said that she's beautiful, but I didn't know her that much yet. My dad was like about to anger and scream at me, but said that, like I said, I don't know her well enough. I mean, would you have married mom if you didn't even love her or not? If it was your position? I mean, would you at least got to know her a little bit better before you made the decision? My dad's like quietly, from angrily to quiet. And he told me, I understand your concern. Alright then. You have until you're finished high school to make the decision if you're gonna marry her or not. If you're not, you're out of the family permanently. I was like, okay, that's fine. So the next day, on Sunday, I was actually out with Harper, and I informed her about this supposed business plan that my parents had told me to do. She freaked out. Even I told her I did meet the girl, but I had no intention to do it. But luckily for me, Willow's family was really wealthy. Her mom was a lawyer and her dad owned a business of his own. And he actually owned an IT company. So I didn't know what to do. So we went over to her family's house and we informed both her parents about my family situation. They said they couldn't have believed it. I asked her parents if they had known about my family situation and if they had known about me and Harper being engaged, if they would offered finances to support to help my family's restaurant. They both said yes. So I thought maybe to introduce this to my parents as like a backup plan just in case if something would happen. So as the time went on, I started seeing Willow from time to time as my parents requested, so I could both get to know her, but neither me or Willow had no intention to even get together. In fact, she told me she were actually already dating a guy from her school, but she kept it as a secret. But then, after we just finished high school, I was on the edge of the time limit of what to decide if I want to marry Harper or not. Or Willow, I mean. Well, I told my parents, well, I made my decision. They smiled and said, finally, you're decided to marrying her then. I shook my head and said, absolutely not, Dad. They were shocked. They thought I spent some time with her, actually had fallen in love with her or not. What did you say? He screamed. Dad, did you actually believe I'm out to break up with my fiancée? And I had to mention, don't listen to this. I'm gonna listen. But then he was about to sit down and didn't listen, and I told him that. And then my mom told me, once the last time, if you don't do it, our business will go under. I told her there is another backup for this. But she said there aren't any. But then I was like, okay, finally, fine then. So I went upstairs, grabbed some of my things, and then just before I had to enter to leave the door, I said, well, you should have known a little bit about Harper's family. I told them firmly. You know, her mom is a successful lawyer, and her dad actually owns the biggest IT company in town. That made my parents like, what? Look at me, like that kind of expression. I actually had told them about our family business problem and asked them if they would have been supporting us about to help us. They said yes. But why did you, no matter what, Dad, you wouldn't even to listen. And I have to say now, I'm not going to ask them for helping us, or rather, you two. I'm out of here. I'm not want to see you two because you want to ruin my whole life. You tried to ruin my life for being with someone I didn't even like. But before my parents could say anything, I just walked out and left. I walked all the way over to Harper's house. She welcomed me back with open arms, and her family did the same. Only a couple of days later, my mom and dad came to see Harper by her house. But they did apparently they had did some research about her family, and sure enough, they realized if they had known, they would have been not had been taking this desperate act of having someone marrying me for just helping. But I told them I'm cutting ties with you permanently. I don't want to see you ever again. And my beloved Harper told them also, if you had listened to your son from the start, you may not have even had to be doing all this. Even Harper's, my beloved Harper's mom, who's a lawyer, said also that you shouldn't force your own son into a marriage in order to save your business. We would have been willing to save your business if you had known about it and even asked us. But we're not going to do it anymore. And with that, they closed the door, and I didn't see my parents for a while afterwards, because I went to college. I still went to study business. And reason? Well, Harper's dad told me when I finished high school and college, I would have been given an opportunity to join his company. And since me and Harper was getting married at one point soon, I thought, why not? At least that will help me to be given a stable income for me and my potential future family one day. And I also later learned that after I finished college, I joined a company that one day when Harper's dad would retire, I would have been the new CEO, which to me, I was not prepared for. And during this time, my dad had tried to reach out to me and my mom, but I didn't want to even talk to them. So I blocked the numbers, and based on what I found out from mutual friends, the family business didn't go under as at all. In fact, the man that they had offered to help my parents' restaurant, didn't back out. He understood the family drama that he decided to help the family business anyways, and it was still flourishing today. They tried to ask me to come back to be their son, but I said no. And the day came when I was getting married to Harper. I didn't even send any invitation to neither of my parents because, like I said, told them before, I'm cutting all ties with them. I didn't want to have nothing to do with them at all. Even though Harper's parents told me maybe I should forgive them, and I thought maybe one day I perhaps would, but I'm not so sure if I ever will. But after we got married, we actually went to Hawaii for just a week of the honeymoon. It was just a great time. I didn't even thought a single second about my parents. But when I got home, I was actually approached by a mutual friend of my family, and they had asked me if I could talk to my parents because they have been in a very depressed state. It hasn't even really much affected by the business though, but they have felt a bit sad that they realized the only son, their only child, had done this. It broke their heart. But I told this family friend, is it my problem? If they had listened to me from the start, but then also it would have been my fault not just should have mentioned that I was only engaged. But if I had done that, it's very likely they would have simply just told me to break up with Harper to marrying Willow anyways. So I was like, screw that. I'm not doing it. So I told my parents afterwards, after I met them for one last time, I'm not going to help them with any financial support or any other way and this will be my final meeting with them. And this was around the time when I learned that Harper was pregnant. We were so excited. We had learned that we were expecting our first daughter together. Harper's parents was just excited to be grandparents. Of course, I did had feeling obligation to at least to informing my parents, well, former parents, about this news. Of course, they sent back these congrats to me and Harper, but I'm still not regretting to change my mind to cutting off from them entirely. Did I? No. I mean, even though they tried a few times over time to try to get back to me to be a part of the family, they wanted to meet their granddaughter, and we named her Isabella. But just say, after what my parents did to me, almost forced me to marry someone I didn't even know or even like, they had no idea how it affected my feelings. I really wanted to have them be part of my life in the future. I mean, first of all, they liked Harper. They even said that she was a very beautiful girl, that she was very polite, well mannered. And then why would they tell me to simply break up with her and just that? It didn't make no sense. But I'm glad it's not happening at all. And yeah, that was probably all I can say about my family though. But to my new family, my in-laws, Harper's parents, they are great parents. They raised their daughter to be independent and also very strong-minded. I mean, my parents raised me the same to be independent and all that. But this was just way beyond I could have even imagined my parents would even go so far. I mean, I can understand if they had asked me about this idea from the start, maybe just ask what I thought about it and not be forced into it. If they had asked me if I considered to do something to help the family business, if I had known Willow and perhaps even liked her much, I would have considered dating her, but I'm only speculating on that part now. But to my former parents, I may not forgive you ever in my entire life because after what you did, you broke my trust. You broke my entirely trust on both of you. I don't know what else to say about this. My trust in you are broken. May have been, it may or may not even be repaired. But I don't think to say the latter option, not be repaired. I love Harper. I wouldn't change that for not at all. If I hadn't married Harper, my beloved daughter Isabella wouldn't have been born. And I treasure both Harper and Isabella more than anything. So, with that, I don't want to neither see either my mom or dad ever again. Even though we still live in the same town, and I do pass by the restaurant from time to time on the way home or from work. I see that they are still working together, working to us to make sure that this business still remains. But since I'm not no longer going to take over the business, the question is, who's going to do it afterwards when they retire? Will they either selling the store, the restaurant to someone else, or will they someone else in the family, like some relative, taking over, or will they close it down permanently? I don't know. Since this had been way before I was born and all that. So, but do I care? I mean, from the start, I really did care, but I don't know. I hadn't even been back there ever since, and I might not even be there ever again, though. But who knows? But ever since then, to my former parents, I may not want to see you ever again, but it's chances I might just run into you in town. So, but yeah, I prefer us not to be family ever, ever ever again. Thank you.